Good afternoon, everybody. Very strange. This is our first time using the webinar function. So it's quite strange not having that direct connection with everybody, but we felt it was a new way of working that would work well for this type of tasting. You can use the Q&A. So if you want to send us a thumbs up or a message to say hi, then you can do that now if you wish. But obviously the Q&A is there mainly to ask questions during the webinar. We will try and stop and answer questions as we go along, but the majority of questions we'll probably leave until the end. But if you have a specific question about a wine, feel free to use the Q&A function. So my name's Lee Evans. If those of you who don't know me, I'm the co-founder and managing director of Condor Wines. Aaron is our sales and category manager. He's taken the lead today. He's going to be hosting this webinar. I'm just doing a brief intro to say hi, and then I'm going to manage the Q&A function. So I'll step back and let Aaron get on it in a moment. If I can just say thank you to Thibault, Matt, and Marco, who are joining us all from Chile at a very busy time for them. So we're really grateful for the hour that they're giving us today. And otherwise, enjoy the session. I love these innovative packs that we're using with the online wine tasting company. They're fantastic. Really impressed with the packaging and everything. And if any of you have any questions, like I say, use the Q&A. And thank you very much for joining us. And I'll hand over to Aaron.
Thanks very much, Lee. As Lee said, I'm a sales and category manager at Condor. Some of you all know, maybe not everyone, but thanks very much for joining us today. Lee said I'm the host for this, but really I'm just sort of a facilitator. We've got three great winemakers with us today, all from Colchagua in Chile, all with very different views and very different styles in their winemaking. And we'll get a chance to explore that today with the samples. I'm not going to do too much talking because you could listen to me any day of the week. That's nothing special about that. But what is interesting is actually to listen to the men here, the guys who've actually made these wines. So all I'm going to do just to kick off is I'll be a bit of a stato. If you're at my age, you might remember that there was something called Fantasy Football League, and there was a guy on there who always had the statistics and the facts and figures about things. Well, that's what I'm just going to do quickly now. I'm going to start by just sharing a map just to set the scene so we can see where we're talking about today. So here we are. This is Chile, of course, a very long and thin country in South America. About 2,600 miles long, but only just under about 180 miles wide. So at its furthest point, so it's a very long, narrow country. And we're talking about Colchagua today, which is down in the central part of Chile, as you can see on the left here on the map. And as you can see with my very high-tech visual here, no expense spared on the map that we've done here with the arrows to show where the three wineries are we're going to be talking about today. So we are interested today in the far west of the Colchagua Valley, which is influenced by the Pacific Ocean. And on here, you can see three different colored arrows. The purple arrow at the top there is La Despensa Boutique, which is Matt's winery. There he is. In the middle there, New Pumanque, the green arrow, this is Viña Dagaz, which is Marco's winery that we'll be talking about and tasting the wines from today. And then towards the bottom there, we've got Lolol Valley, which is a sub-region of Colchagua, and that's where Hacienda Aracano is based. Organic and biodynamic wines that we'll be trying today. And Thibault is the winemaker, and he's with us today as well. Just to give you, as I say, some facts and figures very quickly about Colchagua. Colchagua's total vineyard area is about 32,818 hectares. I've taken that from Amanda Barnes' South America Wine Guide, so it's pretty up to date. Just to give you a comparison, Bordeaux, AOC Bordeaux is about 115,000 hectares. Mendoza, just over the Andes in Argentina, is about 146,817 hectares. And Chile's total vineyard area is 145,461 hectares. Guys, stop me if that's all incorrect. Hopefully you agree with me. The three wineries on the map there, the Colchagua map, are roughly 200 kilometers drive from Santiago. I mean, obviously they're in slightly different places, but if we give an approximate distance, and the latitude here, where they are, there is about 34.63 south. So it's about the same latitude if we were talking the Northern Hemisphere as sort of Northern Africa, Southern Spain, but it's not as hot and arid as that because of the influence of the ocean there. It gives more of a Mediterranean climate with the cooling influence of the ocean. The soils here, well, the coastal hills are granitic. I'm not going to talk too much about that. We've got 3 people in the webinar who can say more about that. But the diurnal range, just to give you an idea here, is about 15 degrees. Average summer daytime is about 29 degrees. Night time's about 15 degrees. So quite a large diurnal range there. And I've got a quote, again, that I took from Amanda Barnes, who, of course, as we all know, very famous South America writer, sorry. She calls Colchagua the Hollywood star of Chilean wine, because it has so many famous winemakers and famous wineries are based there. But she also says it's one of the most diverse regions in Chile, because you have not only the big producers who are working with some very well-known grapes that we're all familiar with, but you have artisanal producers as well who are working with what they call the Criollo varieties, some ones that are a little bit more unusual, like the País we'll be trying a little bit later. And that wide variety of artisanal winemakers all the way up to the big wineries is sort of like a microcosm of the Chilean wine industry in general. Just stop sharing that map for a moment there. So that's just setting the scene. I'm conscious of the fact we've got an hour and we've got 6 wines to get through. And I did say I wouldn't do much talking, so I'm mindful of not saying too much more. But I think the best thing to do at this point is I'm going to hand over to Thibault. And Thibault's going to tell you a little bit about Hacienda Aracano in the Lolol Valley. And he's also going to introduce the first wine we're going to taste today, which is the L'Atelier Naranjo, which is a skin contact white, a very recent addition to the range at Aracano. Over to you, Thibault.
Thank you, Aaron. So, well, thank you for your time and listening to us. The winery I'm going to present is Hacienda Aracano. As Aaron showed you on the map, it's on the west part of Colchagua, means it's quite close to the sea, so we still have the sea influence. The name of the wine is actually Humo Blanco, which means a white fog, white smog, because we have some clouds coming inside the estate every morning that protects the grape from the very hard, strong sunshine, and that allows our region to produce either red wine. Actually, Colchagua, I think, is more famous for its red grapes like Cabernet than for the whites. But in our place, which is nearby the coast, we also are producing some very particular and interesting white grapes. We have, the estate is 26 hectares, all biodynamic farm. It's an estate which has been founded by Francois Lurton, a winemaker from Bordeaux, from France, more than 22 years ago. And since the beginning, he wanted to make the estate organically farmed, and then we switched to biodynamic 10 years ago. So the wine you are going to have is Demeter certified, both wines. All the estate is Demeter certified, and most of our wines are Demeter certified. This orange wine is a blend of 3 grapes that we have, 3 white grapes that we have in our estate. We mainly have Sauvignon Blanc with 5 hectares. We only have 2 hectares of Chardonnay and a little hectare of Viognier. And as we are very involved in all the agroforestry, natural winemaking, and biodynamic organic farming, for us, it appeared as an evidence to make skin contact wine in order to use less and less products during the winemaking. Just let me know, Aaron, if I'm okay with the time. I'm not checking the hour. So what we did, the idea of making an orange wine, we call it orange wine, but actually it's not an orange wine because it's not oxidative. It's a wine which is macerated with the skins for 8 months. But the idea of this wine is to take advantage of the contact with the skins, of the contact with the leaves during all its aging, but not to put it in contact with the oxygen in order not to make it oxidative. It's still an aromatic, varietal, fresh wine with a lot of structure and more structure than a regular white wine, I would say, but it's not oxidative at all. We call it Naranjo because it's more easy to understand, but the right word actually would be more a skin contact wine. So we did maybe I can just show you one picture of the winemaking process. And so this is a concrete vat. We are making the Chardonnay in barrels of 600 liters. This is a Sauvignon
Thibault,
Blanc.
just a moment. Sorry to stop you. I think we've got a picture of the Lolol Valley there.
Okay.
Can everybody? Yeah. Just
That's okay.
Can I just check with Lee? Are you can you hear me? Can you see the image of the? Are you trying to show the Lolol Valley, Thibault, or were you showing the actual winemaking process? Because I know you had
the winemaking process of the orange wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not seeing it. I just want to check if anybody else can see that.
Yeah, we've got Rob logged in as a visitor, and he can see it, and I can see it on my screen. It might just be a delay function on your side, Aaron.
Okay, I'll stop then and let you carry on, Thibault. Sorry for the interruption.
So, just to explain the concept of this wine, we are making a white wine as if it was a red wine. We are making all the vinification with the skins, but we have different types of vinification regarding the grapes. So for the Chardonnay, we are making it in 600 liters barrel, and we fill the barrel with the grapes, with the entire grapes, with destined grapes, with no stems. And we make some pigeage in this barrel during all the fermentation. And when the fermentation is over, when the wine is dry with no residual sugar, we would just close the barrel and refill it with some wine and leave it in contact with the skins for 8 months in case of this vintage 2022. For the Sauvignon Blanc, we did it in a concrete vat, but the process is merely the same. We fill the tank and make the fermentation of the wine as if it was a red wine with the skins. And when the fermentation is over, we would just refill the tank with wine and leave it in contact with the skins for 8 months also. And for the Viognier, we did the same at the Chardonnay. We only had 3 barrels because we have very few hectares of Viognier. And we also made an aging of 8 months. At the end, we put some Viognier because Viognier gives a terpenic nose to the blend. For me, the grape that works better for in this kind of vinification is the Chardonnay. It gives a lot of structure. It works very well with the wood, even if the wood that we are using is no new oak at all. It's only barrels which are 4 or 5 years old, actually. And we want to give a little bit more of acidity and freshness with the Sauvignon Blanc. But the note that you can smell is mainly due to the only 10% of Viognier that we have, which is very floral and terpenic. And as you know, most of the aromatical compounds in this kind of grapes, like Viognier, are in the skins, not in the must. So if you leave the grapes in contact with the skins for more time during all the vinification, you can extract more aromatical compounds, and so you can have a more aromatic and expressive wine. So the wine is vinificated with no sulfite at all during all the vinification and the aging. And we just make a correction of sulfite just before bottling with no filtering. What
inspired you to produce the wine, Thibault? Was it something that you thought about for a long time, or was it something that you saw other people perhaps producing similar and thought you might like to try a similar sort of wine style?
Well, because we have a lot of white wine, and that's true that if we're more coastal, we don't have the expression that you can have in Lleida, Casablanca, San Antonio, in other places of Chile where you have a very expressive Sauvignon Blanc. So we had a Sauvignon Blanc which was very interesting in terms of balance, mouth, elegancy, but we wanted to enhance this structure of Sauvignon Blanc, the volume of the mouth of this Sauvignon Blanc. So 5 years ago, we started to work with a little bit of skin contact during the vinification, but at that time we would just rack the wine at the middle of the fermentation with no aging with the skins. And step by step, we realized that this vinification could also make some wine which we have a very interesting personality. And this trend of orange wine fits very well with all the estate that we have, which is biodynamic since 10 years with a low produce inside during the vinification. Let's say low product. Sorry. It's no low intervention. I wouldn't say low intervention because actually we are making a lot of intervention on the wine in order not to use any product. But yes, it's a matter of trying to find a sense, a personality to our wine. And also, you're right, a kind of trend around this new wine that make it that made sense to do this 100% 8-month aged skin contact wine. I
see. Brilliant. Thanks, Thibault. Thanks for that. Fantastic start. Lovely wine. Really like the style. For me, it's a great introduction to the category. And as you say, it's not a full-blown orange wine that we sometimes find out there. It's got some, like a little bit more of a character all of its own. Matt,
just one second. Sorry, Aaron. Just a quick question. One question I answered on live anyway, but he's already answered. But there was a question here from Lindsay about what percentage of grapes in the blend. Maybe that wasn't picked up.
Yeah, it's 45 Chardonnay, 45 Sauvignon Blanc, and only 10% Viognier.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you. Sorry, Matt. If you'd like to introduce yourself, and we'll move on to the second wine, which of course is your País.
Yes, I'll just ask Thibault if he can unshare his screen. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So yeah, hi everyone. I assume you're all there. It's kind of a bit weird. I feel like I'm just speaking to the four other people on the screen. But anyway, I'm Matt. Originally from Lichfield, just outside Birmingham, but I call Dorset my home. Dorset since I was about 13 years old. I've been out in South America for almost 20 years now. In 2013, I moved, 2009, I moved to the Colchagua Valley. 2011, I bought my property here in Santana, which is about 25 minutes from Santa Cruz, which is the main town, and about 45 minutes from Pichilemu, which is on the coast. So it's in an area with a bit of marine influence. There was nothing here at all when I originally bought the property, just literally a tumble down, heavily earthquake damaged house from the old Hacienda, the old Fundo. There wasn't a single vine or fence or anything. So it's been a big project from the start. We've been going, it's going to be almost 12 years now, 11 and a half years. And in 2013, I decided to plant Vineyard. And I decided to plant literally the grapes, the wine that I wanted to drink. Growing up in England, I was always a big fan of French wines, and particularly southern French, Côte de Rhône and Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So I decided to plant Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Cinsault. 2013, I could only get hold of the Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre, and in 2017, we planted Cinsault. We're actually, I think, the only producer of red wine from Cinsault in the Colchagua Valley at the moment. So that's kind of a little bit of the potted history of our brand. In 2015, we made our very first wine, which is a 1 barrel. And I always say that we were, unfortunately, the wine turned out to be really, really good because it kind of encouraged me to keep going into this financial madness of owning a small scale winery. We have at our own vineyard, we have about 1.5 hectares planted, so we're really small. We've got about 7,500 plants. We've then planted almost a hectare of Sangiovese at my in-laws' house, which is about 500 meters away. There is a buffer in between. There's a neighbor in between, so it's not a direct access. And in 2019, we discovered this old vine País vineyard, which is about 20 minutes away from us, just outside the town of Pumanque. Discovered it via my worker, a friend of his. We were just talking about irrigation one day, and he said, "Oh, I've got this friend who's managing this old vineyard in Pumanque. It has no irrigation, and it's it seems pretty old." And I was just like, "Well, yeah, let's go and check it out." So we went to check it out, and I'm going to share my screen, desktop. Okay, so this is what I walked into. This is the vineyard we walked into, and I was just like totally blown away by the vines. They're absolutely incredible. So we're talking about vines which are probably about absolute minimum 120 to 150 years old. They're dry farmed, which dry farming in Colchagua is not like dry farming down south where most of the País comes from. in Colchagua, there are only 50 to 60 hectares of old vine País left. It's the grape that was brought over by the Spanish, the Jesuits, planted all over Chile at one point, but in Colchagua, it was all ripped out to plant the kind of the French noble variety, shall we say, in the like 1880s, 1890s. So down in Maule in south, you've still got literally 10,000 hectares of old vine País growing. Here in Colchagua, 50 or 60, so it's very rare. I think we're only actually 8 producers of old vine País in Colchagua. And it comes out a little differently, obviously, because we're growing, this is dry farmed on 300 millimeters of rainfall a year for the last 12 to 13 years, because we've been in a mega drought for that amount of time. Down south, you know, even in a bad year, they're getting 550, 600 millimeters plus. Makes a huge difference. So the vines are incredible that they've managed to survive this long. I'll just show you some more photos. So what we tend to get from this vineyard is a style of País, which is a little bit, I would call it more serious. It's got a little bit more concentration, a little bit more color. I think what's happened as well with the País grape is that a lot of the time, I think there's kind of been a brand which has been created around it in the south of Chile, which is kind of based on the kind of more natural, traditional style of winemaking. And I think a lot of the wines tend to come out very rustic. There's some really nice examples of the wine. But what we're trying to do is show the actual grape. We're trying to show the purity of the fruit that we're producing from this vineyard. We're not trying to show what a 100-year-old Rowley Foudre can do that hasn't been washed properly for 100 years either. We're just trying to show literally the fruit and the purity of the fruit. So we vinify in a fairly traditional way, or a modern traditional, shall we say. So this is vinified in bins with punch downs as normal, and then it was aged in flex tanks. In a flex tank for 10 months. So it's like a 2-week cycle for the fermentation, then pressing, and then it goes into a flex tank. So the flex tanks are really good because it's just the pure fruit. So they have the same level of micro-oxygenation as a used barrel. So you do get that oxygen intake, which helps the wine develop, but you don't get any notes at all from the wood, because even a used barrel is going to give you some, you know, it's going to give you some flavors and some nuance. So kind of along the lines of all of our wines that we produce, we're looking for just fresh, pure fruit. I think this País is a really interesting example of what País can be when it's produced in a more modern style, and not trying to kind of hark back to the old style of winemaking, which sometimes produces wines that can be a little bit sometimes faulty or sometimes a little bit oxidized. These are.
Sorry, Matt, but I was just going to say I couldn't agree more. I mean, for me, I don't know what the people who are tasting, who are in on the session think, but for me, it's got that lovely purity of fruit, a really pure expression of the grape, and it doesn't have that sort of rusticity or savouriness you sometimes get from País further south, places like Maule, which we've tasted examples from before. And I don't know whether that's because of the extreme age of the vines you're using and the amazing fruit they're producing, but I suspect it's got more to do with Colchagua and partly the way you're producing the wine as well and your vinification techniques.
Yeah, I think sometimes the wines from País grapes, they're more a reflection of the way they're aged and the vessels they're aged in, rather than a reflection of the vineyard and the fruit.
Yeah.
And we are very much, I mean, we work, for me, it's like none of our wines, we use new oak, and there's a reason for that. It's because I work every single day in the vineyard. I work my ass off in the vineyard. I work really hard with basically one other worker during the year. And I want my wines to be a real expression of the work we put in the vineyard. I don't want to cover up the fruit of the grapes that we work so hard to produce with flavors which don't come from the grapes. So we're looking for fresh, definitely kind of a real purity of the fruit that we grow.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely see more of this when we taste your field blend a little bit later on. Without sorry to stop you there, Matt. Are we okay to move on to Marco? Did you have anything else you wanted to say about the País or?
No, I think we've got everything in there, so we can.
I feel like the bad guy because I know we could talk about this for such a long time.
I mean, yeah. I mean, anyone who makes wine can talk about their wines for days and days. So.
Well, I don't make wine, but I could certainly bring you a close second. I think talking about wine. So.
Can I just remind people if they have any questions or observations or anything they want to share to put it into the Q&A, and we can pick it up there. And we can't see or hear you. So I've had a couple of messages about that. So because it's a webinar, we can't see or hear you. So the only interaction we have with you is through the Q&A. I can unmute you and you can ask a question yourself, but we'll leave that to the end if you're really keen to do that. Thank you. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Please do ask as we go along if you've anything that you particularly are interested to know, and we'll certainly try and answer as we can. If you don't mind stop sharing, Matt, I'll just introduce Marco briefly, or at least give Marco a chance to introduce himself. So our third winemaker who's with us today is Marco Puyo. He is from a winery called Viña Dagaz. Marco, I'll say no more. Please do introduce your winery and introduce the El Camino Cuvée to us.
Yes. Hello to everyone. My name is Marco Puyo. I am the owner of a winemaker of Dagaz, the name of my project. I have been as a winemaker for 31 years, then long time making wine. We start with my project in 2006 when we planted the vineyard, and after several years we start making wines to sell. Really during 7 years since the first production of wine, I made trials with the different varieties that we have planted in the vineyard, in order to know well how is the quality that we can obtain from different places, different varieties from the property, with the object that in the moment that we're going to start selling wines, must be sure that what must be the correct places that we will use from the vineyard to have a good quality and the style of wine that we like to show. I will, I don't know, give me a second to, can you see the slide or not? Aaron, you don't have a sound. You're mute.
Yeah, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Yeah, just at the bottom of the screen, Marco, you should see a share screen button.
Yeah,
can you see it on your screen?
Give me a second. I don't know why.
Sorry, my fault, Marco, because you arrived a little bit later on the pre-meeting. I didn't get a chance to make you co-host, so my error. You can now do it.
Okay, but don't worry. I will show a picture of a property for the next wine. But I want to explain what means Dagaz. Dagaz is the name of the project. Dagaz is a symbol from the north of Europe. Really is really the name of the symbols is a rune, but maybe not everybody know what is a rune, but it's a symbol that means the beginning of a new path, a new road. And why? Because after 25 years working for different wineries in Chile, after to work in the second largest group of wineries in Chile, I left my job and start with a new project, Dagaz, and it's the reason that we put to the project Dagaz. That means the beginning of a new path, the beginning of a new road. And in the property we have 4 varieties. The main variety is Cabernet Sauvignon. Then we have a Cabernet, Petit Verdot. Then 3 varieties from Bordeaux, and 1 variety from Rhone, that is Syrah. In the wine that we're trying now, that the name is Cuvée El Camino. El Camino means the road or the path, then has a relation with the name of the winery. In this case, we have 2 varieties. The main percentage is Cabernet Sauvignon, and the other variety is Carmener. Every year, this wine is around 70% of Cabernet Sauvignon and 30% of Carmener. We can have some variation in terms of percentages. In this case, it's close to 7, Cabernet Sauvignon. The idea of this wine is to show well the origin, the terroir that we have in Pumanque. Pumanque is located, as you saw in the first picture, close to Lolol. It's just above than Lolol, going to the north. Has an important influence from the Pacific Ocean. We have a lot of breeze during the afternoon. Then, and plus a granitic soil that is a more typical soil that exists on the coastal range on or in the coastal mountain, and going to the sea and going to the mid part of Chile. Is the granite, is this kind of granite is quartz. We have big stones of quartz, small stones of quartz, rocks, and quartz decomposed. And then with the influence from the Pacific that give freshness to the wine, plus the character that give some minerality, the granitic soil, permits to have a fresh wine with good acidity, low pH, not too much alcohol. And the object of us is to make wines like this, to make wines to drink every day. We are not making fat wines, big wines. We prefer to make wines longer, fresher, with more acidity. And this wine show something about this. This wine is the wine is our entry level. Then is the wine that we start our line of wine. In this case, we use 100% of used oak, French, and we age the wine during 14, 15 months in 100% use French oak. The vinification is very traditional because we're making traditional grapes, and very traditional grapes from France, and really traditional grapes from Chile. That the main part of the varieties that we have in Chile come from France, and a big part from Bordeaux. Then the vinification also is very traditional. We made some cool soak and cool maceration during a week, and then make the fermentation, separate Cabernet Sauvignon in some tanks and Carmener in other tanks. We use concrete vats and stainless steel tanks for the fermentation. And really the idea of to make this wine is to show the blend of the 2 main varieties that we have in Chile in terms of hectares and in terms of cells. In Chile, we have about 120,000 hectares, and really Cabernet Sauvignon is 40,000, and Carmener close to 20,000. Then about 50% or close to 50% of the vineyards in Chile are Cabernet Sauvignon and Carmener. Then is the reason that we want to have a wine that represent our country and also represent the coastal range of Colchagua. Then
it really does, Marco. Sorry.
Please.
I was just going to say, no, for me, you're absolutely right. The freshness that runs through this is very clear, and it's got such a drinkability. I mean, a real drinkability to it. I can't imagine another glass would be a very difficult thing to drink. You know, it's just got that lovely sort of, the refreshment you're wanting in the second glass of the wine. Sorry to cut in. I'm just mindful of the time. I was just going to see if was there anything else you just wanted to add in before we just move on and try the next wine?
Yeah. Okay. Go to the next one.
No. Were you done though?
Okay,
Have I cut you off completely midstream?
Yeah.
Extremely I'm not going to make any friends today.
Yeah.
So sorry, Mark. Yeah, I was just mindful of the time, and I know we've still got three more wines to talk about. But very rudely interrupting Marco there. Just moving on to Matt. I think we were going to look at your second red, Matt, next, the field blend. That's the. You're still muted. Oh, and that's the El Camino. Thanks, Marco.
Yeah. Sorry.
So the wine number 4 that you're going to taste now, of course, is one of Matt's wines. It's the La Despensa field blend. Matt, over to you. Please tell us more.
Okay, I thought I was next after this one, but again, not a problem. So yeah, as I explained at the start when I was explaining a little bit about the project, I planted Rhone varietals. I mean, the main reason is because it's the wine that I wanted to drink. Which is the same reason we planted our Sangiovese. It's just as an experiment. I fancied planting Sangiovese, so we planted it. No one else in this area had Grenache and Mourvèdre and Cinsault. So that kind of spurred me on to do it even more. I like to do things which other people generally don't or might even advise against. I'm pretty stubborn. If someone tells me it's probably not a good idea, then I'll just say, yeah, thanks for that, and do it anyway. That's basically what my school reports always used to say. A little bit rebellious. So we planted the original vineyard, so the Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre in 2013. First production, we got a tiny production in 2015. Main production, first decent production was 2016. And yeah, so the wine's kind of been evolving over time as we've been learning what the vineyard's going to give us, and it's been evolving definitely towards my personal style and my personal taste in wine. I don't like overly concentrated, kind of oaky, traditional Chilean or, I don't know, American style wines. As I said, we work really, really hard in vineyard every day. It's me on the tractor every day. It's me with a shovel in my hand, removing the weeds literally by shovel, because we're organic here and we're organic on slightly clayey soils, which is good because we don't have to irrigate as much, but there is a lot of water retention. So our main enemy here is weeds because they just keep coming back. But now the vineyard's all established, it's not so much of an issue. But 2020 was definitely a kind of fairly major shift in style, definitely towards that fresher, brighter fruits. We co-fermented all of the grapes. So the Grenache and the Syrah always ripen at pretty much the same time, so we can pick at the same time and we co-ferment. So the idea for me for co-fermenting is that, usually white blends are made by a little bit of alchemy, like tipping a bit of this, tipping a bit of that in to get the perfect percentages. Whereas all of the grapes from this vineyard are going to go into this wine. So for me, I don't see why we should be making the wine separately and then blending them afterwards when we can create a single unique wine from the start. So the Grenache and Syrah are picked at the same time. The Mourvèdre comes in a couple of weeks later. So what we tend to do is we leave a little bit of Grenache and Syrah behind. The Mourvèdre comes in much lower alcohol and slightly underripe, but it has a really nice structure to it. So what we do is we over-ripen a little bit of Grenache and Syrah, so we can co-ferment that with the slightly underripe Mourvèdre. And that tends to round out any greenness of the Mourvèdre. So we get the structure from the Mourvèdre, but we don't get any kind of underripe notes. Then actually 2020, we actually introduced a little bit of Roussanne as well. So we pressed our Roussanne earlier, and then we held back the skins because we're a small winery. You don't have a professional mega press, which gets you a huge amount of juice out of the grapes. So with unfermented white grapes, we're only getting about 50% juice per kilo. So there's still a lot of juice left in those grapes. We held them back. And then we added those to co-ferment with the Grenache and the Syrah as well, which was harvested a few days later. So we're looking, this 2020 was definitely a shift really towards a much fresher style. Maybe some of you who were there had our 2019, which was in the UK, and I think you'll probably be able to tell the difference. And it's definitely what we're trying to do. We're moving towards definitely that style of wine, which is the style of wine that I like the most. From the next vintage on, which we'll hopefully have to you in the near future, that's got some Sanso in there as well. So that's our Sanso vineyard behind us. That photo was taken exactly 1 year ago, where we had a Mother Nature gave us a gift of a fog bow, which was the first time I've ever seen one actually, but it's pretty amazing. So I mean, our area of the valley, it is a little bit cooler. It's still a very hot area, but we're in a bit of a dip. So our grapes, we have Syrah planted here that buds probably 3 weeks later than the Syrah, which is on the main road, which is about 3 kilometers away in a straight line. It's like really close, but because we just got a little dip, everything comes a little bit later. And we do have a lot more fog in the mornings. In spring and autumn, sometimes it's foggy here until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And then you go out onto the main road 3 kilometers away, and we're talking about probably about a 6 or 7 meter difference above sea level. And it's just bright, sunny, beautiful, clear skies. And we just going out with like jacket and coat on because it's so cold where we are. So it's a really interesting little kind of micro valley here. And I know every single winemaker in the world says that their micro valley has this microclimate, which makes their wine special. I'm going to say exactly the same thing.
I was just going to say, what a cliche, Matt.
It's a terrible cliche. Everyone says it, but and it's true. We're such a tiny little space here, but
you've tied that straight back to what I said at the start, though, about the cooling influence. So like I'm okay with that. You're just backing me up there, so that's fantastic. Thanks very much. Thanks for telling us about the field blend.
Yeah, I'll
really
just
lovely.
say this wine was didn't touch any wood at all. It was stored in a concrete tank. Concrete tanks are lined concrete tanks, so it's literally the same as I was saying about the País. It's literally just the fruit. There's no influence from the vessel. There's nothing. It's just and that's exactly what we're looking for in our wines. We're looking for a real pure expression of the fruit. They're fresh wines. They're wines that kind of you drink and then you would like a second glass. Sometimes you'll try like a more concentrated oat wine. And you'll think, wow, that was really nice. It's really well made, but they're kind of like heavy, and you don't really want to have that second glass. So the idea for me is to produce wines that you just want to keep drinking.
Yeah. Well, I certainly want to keep drinking it, but I'm sure, fortunately, my pouch isn't very big. But yeah, it's a lovely example, a real sort of Chilean take on a Chateauneuf de Pape style, as you said, but with a few tweaks, a few Matt Ridgway tweaks along the way to do something different. Talking of the power of blending, we're going to move on to, or shall I say, we're going to move back to Thibault now. Thibault, thanks very much. You've been waiting very patiently. You're the first person to start talking, and now you're the fifth person to talk again. The fifth wine, sorry, is going to be you're going to introduce to us. So we're back in Lolol now, back at Hacienda Aracano, which of course is organic and the organic and biodynamic estate. The next wine you're going to be tasting is Thibault's Clos de Lolol blend, a single vineyard blend, which I think is from all the red grapes that you actually have on the estate in the blend. Is that right, Thibault? Yeah.
Almost all of them except the Pinot Noir. We also have some Pinot Noir that do not participate to the blend, but all the other grapes are participating to this blend.
Brilliant. I'll over to you. Please do tell us a little bit more about the wine we're about to taste.
So this wine, as Matt said, we think we have a very special microclimate and microterroir in Lolol, in Hacienda Aracano. And I think this one, what we want to do with this one is to be the best representation of our terroir, because in kind of French concept of blending, we are not blending wine from different origin, but blending a lot of different grapes, all coming from the same place. So this wine, depending on the year, the proportion of the grape, of the participation of the grape variety in the blend changes every year, but it always has at least 5 and sometimes 6 grapes. So we always some Syrah, Cabernet, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. The name of the wine, which is Clos, closed, means a closed area. fits very well with the philosophy of the estate, which is biodynamic. We pretend that our estate is completely isolated from the other estates. We are in the hills of just in the hills, quite far away from any other vineyard. The 26 hectares are on the same plot. I just wanted to show you quickly some picture of the so here, if you can see, so this is all the few plots that you can see here are all different grapes, which have a different slope, so a different orientation. And we are taking advantage of all the different expression of these different plots and different grapes in order to get some complexity in the blend. So what we do the vinification is, as we are in biodynamic, is all fermented with native yeast. We do a classic vinification in concrete or iron steel vats. We do all the grapes separately. We don't do a field blend in that case. And then all the wines are aged between 9 to 12 months in oak barrel, some second or third use. Part of the blend is aged in concrete tanks, and in another part is aged in amphoras. Generally, half of the blend is aged in oak, and the other half is not aged in oak at all. The idea is to keep it fresh, but also at the same time complex wine. So what else as we are biodynamic, we have to harvest it quite early in order to have high acidity, because we are not allowed to use a high level of sulfites. In biodynamical winemaking, you cannot use more than 70 milligrams per liter of sulfites. So we really have to have a good acidity and a good, very low pH in order to ensure that the conservation, the storage of the wine is going to be good, that we not going to have any oxidation of the wine. And we have to use native yeast. And for me, the biggest, the most complicated, I would say, thing to do with these wines is actually the aging of the wine. In order to age a wine 9 to 12 months with a very low level of sulfites in oak or amphoras, and make sure that the wine is still going to be fresh, varietal, and expressive, it's the main thing that we have to cope with for this wine, because all the rest of the wine is doing itself. I mean, we just pick all the grapes at the time we think it's okay, the best moment to pick them. And then the vinification is very traditional and classic. We don't do no bleeding at all, very low extraction, maceration till the end of the fermentation. We don't do any maceration after the fermentation is over. So the main point with the wine is the storage, the picking time, the storage, and obviously the blending at the end of the process.
It's it has got a great freshness running through it again, and you've just indicated about the when you're harvesting your harvesting dates for this wine. Have you aged the wine over the years that you've been making it? So have you got older examples of Lolol, and is it a wine that you would suggest aging?
No, yeah, we have the first vintage of Lolol, I think, is 2005. At that time, the style was a bit different. I think the style of wine was different, was more ripe and extracted. It wasn't at that time biodynamic. We are biodynamic since a little bit less than 10 years, I think 16. We are. This wine is the estate is biodynamic certified, but in order to get the wine Demeter certified, it's another mess, another work.
There is a lag, isn't there? It's a bit complicated. Yeah, it's good that you've raised that, because I think one question we get a lot from people when we're working in wine is, we talk about uncertified biodynamic and uncertified organic in some cases. For example, I know that Matt follows those kind of, you don't use chemicals, Matt. It's not something that you would ever want to do with the grapes you're growing, but you wouldn't necessarily apply to be organic certified, because you're a small producer. You're making, for want of an expression that I suppose was more common 10 years ago, the garage wine sort of thing, where you're making of quite small volumes. But it is worth pointing out there's an awful lot of people who, if you're making wines in the right way, you're going to be following sensible approaches. And, you know, biodynamics, organics might be something you're following, you're not necessarily certified. But yeah, the Clos de Lolol for me has always been a favorite. It's every vintage, I'm always interested to try the new vintage just to see what the expression is. This one for me is got even more. I mean, this is a 19 that we're tasting, and I believe 19 was quite a concentrated year. 18 was the last vintage we had at Condor, and this for me again is just like a little bit more of a boost of fruit, a little bit more of an intense concentration. But again, a real drinkability, a real freshness run through it. It's just a really delicious, complex wine to taste. And you know, for me, it gives Bordeaux blends a run for their money. But as we know, you know, that's easily said. It's not so easily convincing people to switch from their favorite Bordeaux cru claret sometimes to taste Chilean. But it's a shame because people miss out when they don't. So yeah, thanks for that. And talking of wines that can take on Bordeaux, Marco, we've saved Kolwe as the last wine of the tasting today. And that's wine number 6 for those people who've got the pouches in front of them. The last one, you can't miss it. This is the 2019 Kolwe Cabernet from Marco. I won't say any more about it. Marco, please do tell us more about the wine we're about to taste.
Okay, give me a second to share. Can you see the slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, I will use because with something to show, it's better to explain. Okay, we are going to try Cabernet Sauvignon again, but in this case, it's pure Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah, this is a picture of a vineyard. And this one is another picture of a vineyard. In the vineyard in the vineyard we have a hill in between that goes through the property, in the middle of a property. Then we have one side of a hill that see the west, then receive more breeze, cool breeze and wind also. And that is this part of a vineyard. Behind that hills is the Pacific Ocean. It's not close. We have more than 36 kilometers about from the sea. And we have this part that is the side that see the east and some part north. Kolwe is the name of the exactly place where we have the property. All the people that live around the property and that normally work with us during a year and during the harvest time live in Kolwe. Then it's a wine that represents the point where we have the vineyard. And this wine I can show you the bottle, but this wine is a very special wine for me because it's the wine that for me represent better the Cabernet Sauvignon from this property and show well the character of the Cabernet Sauvignon, pure Cabernet Sauvignon from the coastal range of Colchagua. It's a single vineyard wine. We have just one parcela, one block for this to make this wine, 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, located on the cool place in the property, with a exposure to the sun from the end of the day. This wine is very fresh, has an important influence from the granite also. It's a very vibrant wine in the mouth. It's a wine with a lot of energy. And to maintain this energy and sensation of minerality in the mouth, to maintain well the character of Cabernet Sauvignon, not covered with oak, with toast, really. This wine is aged in a French big cask oak called Foudres, our cask of 2,500 liters, around 11 times traditional barrels, Bordeaux barrel of 225 liters. Then, and it's a wine that we age during almost 20 months in Foudres. and we have some food is toasted and some food is untoasted. Then the idea is to maintain the expression. And after that period of aging process, we bottle the wine, and normally we start selling this wine after a year. Then it has a year in bottle. In terms of vinification, again, is very traditional. But in this case, we make a longer cool soak previous day fermentation, normally 10, 12 days with a very low temperature to obtain a lot more fruit, a nice structure. Then we ferment, and after fermentation, we keep the wine in a maceration for 10 days plus. Then in total, we have about 25, 30 days with the grapes and wine in the vats, in the tanks. And then this is the object of this wine. I will show you, I think, something interesting is to show you the kind of rocks that we have in the property. This is granite, and this kind of granite is quartz. We have some quartz like this, and some quartz more transparent. This is a block of Cabernet, really, that we use for the previous wine. We have a lot of stones. This is a picture of the roots, that we have a very deep roots, maybe more than 3 meters. It's a vineyard of 2006. And really, we didn't make a bigger hole, but sure that we have roots until 5, 6 meters, maybe, I don't know. Something else, is a picture of the roots. We have different colors of soils in the property. Normally, the red soil has more iron in the soil and give a little bit different character. This is a picture of a property. This is at your left. We have the cask, the foudre, where we keep this wine. And this is a picture of the wine. The wine that you can see at the right is Kolwe. This vintage is 19. Really, this vintage, I'm very happy with this vintage because this vintage in 21 for decanter was one of the wines of the year. Appeared in the issue of February of 22. I think 50 wines as best wines of the year in the world, and Kolwe Vineyard 19 appear between of the 50 wines. And then we're very happy, and we're very proud to have this wine and to show this wine also.
And so are we. Very proud and very happy to have it, Marco, in our portfolio. And it's worth mentioning as well, you've got a picture of Tierras de Blanco there, of course, which is another wine that you produce that we also bring into the UK. Sadly, we don't have in the lineup today, but again, a really good, a lovely example. A bit more about blending, of course, that wine, isn't it? Tierras de Blanco, yeah. I'm aware that we've hit 5 o'clock, and we did say that this was an hour session. So anybody who feels the need that they need to leave, they need to get back to other things, I totally understand it. If you want to stay on and ask any more questions for a few minutes, then that's absolutely fine. But I'm mindful that I think Matt, I know that you had something pressing. You're a busy winemaker. You've got other things I know that you need to do. But thanks very much for your time today. If there are any questions for you, Matt, and you're not here to answer them, then I'll make sure that we get an answer from you. You're only a WhatsApp call away, aren't you? So I'm afraid you can't. I
can stick around for five or so minutes.
Yeah, okay, for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Again, are there any questions? Is Lee there? Lee, is there anything that anybody's got a pressing question about? One thing we did get, Matt, was a question I think about your field blend, which I sort of answered, but I wondered if you would agree. Chris from Vine Juniper was asking about the aging potential for the field blend. And I said I thought there wouldn't be any issues with it aging in the medium term. I mean, I know that your winery project's not really old. Have you laid any wines down to see how they age, or have you got any sort of feedback you can give on that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, our first wine was 2015, where we made literally just 1 barrel, and it's still tasting really nicely. I was so stingy with holding it back that I thought I probably only had about 50 bottles left tops, and it turns out we've only drunk half the barrel. So we've got 150 bottles left. In my 2016, I've got about 50 bottles left. 2017's gone. 2018, I've got 10 bottles left. So our very first wine is the wine we actually have the most of, and it's holding up really, really nicely. I think they definitely have aging potential. The acidity, particularly from the 2020, will definitely keep it honest for quite some time. I mean, our style of wines, my personal taste is that I prefer younger wines. So I always encourage people to drink our wines when they get them. I think
on the fruit, so to speak.
I think the statistic is something like 85% of wine gets drunk 5 minutes after it gets home or something like that. It's like the vast majority. So our wines are ready to go. They're not wines that need to be laid down. I think they will definitely show improvement over the years, or show changes for sure. They definitely won't go they won't turn, they won't go bad, or they won't reach a peak for at least a few more years. But I just encourage people to drink them.
Yeah, I mean, don't worry, there's no trouble. I won't have any hardship doing that. But it's interesting the point you make, though, because I do get asked a lot about, sometimes people say to me, I think people who are used to buying from the classic regions, perhaps not from South America, say, you know, this wine is a 2020. Why are you selling me a 2020? That's a very young vintage. And it's sort of, you know, there is a perception in South America, you know, there isn't this tradition of laying wines down and keeping them to age, you know, and I think that there's also, coupled with that, an approachability to the style of wines, particularly, you know, like the wines we've tried today, which means that, yes, I'm sure that you could age some of these wines, and I'm sure Marco and Thibault would turn around immediately and say, yes, Lolol, of course you can age it, and certainly Kolwe, I'm sure, Marco, you will put some Kolwe away and you'll be seeing how that ages over the years. But they do have an approachability and a freshness and a fruit expression that makes them delicious wines from the moment you uncork the bottle. It's not always the same thing. You can say that about some of the other wines of the world. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm not saying, you know, like which is better or worse, but I think it is something about South American wines, particularly these wines that we've tasted today. They've got that fantastic versatility, and that you can enjoy them now. But if you want to put them away, it's funny because at Condor we keep saying we should really keep some of that back and see what that. It never happens. It never happens. But maybe we should try a bit harder before some of these wines run out. I can see a few things on the Q&A here. I think it's just there's an awful lot of thanks from the people who've been on the video call, guys. Thanking you for that.
There's an overriding arch of freshness coming through. We've seen that in a lot of the comments, and and also there was a question from email earlier saying if we could share the presentations. So perhaps Aaron, if you can collate the presentations, put them into a PDF or something, and we can share them with attendees after the tasting.
Sure, yeah.
I appreciate we're getting towards the end, and I maybe one sentence from each of the winemakers. What is the future of Colchagua?
It's a nice small subject to finish on.
I said one sentence.
I'll go first quickly, and I'll say who knows. We're always looking from our side. We're always looking to do different things. We're always looking to do different styles. We're always looking. You know, we've just planted some Grenache Blanc. We're planting a little bit more Roussanne, so our future is heading a little bit white. But the future for Colchagua, I think a lot's going to depend on climate change in the longer term, for sure. But from our point of view, we're looking more to the short to medium term, and I think our future is heading towards freshness and drinkability, and some Rhone white wines coming in the very near future.
And also, just a couple of words. Colchagua is one of the more important origins for the Chilean wine. And really, as the rest of Chile, or in some valley, Colchagua are appearing every day or every month or every year, new small projects. Then I think that the future of Colchagua is going to be very good in terms of to produce more different maybe varieties, or maybe produce wines with all varieties, as the wine of Matt with an old País that is not far from here. And I think that Colchagua is going to be better and better, especially for the new projects that is going to, Colchagua is going to be more and more diverse. And it's good for Chile, not just for Colchagua, to have new small projects made by some winemakers that work in big companies, or guys with mad that came to Chile years ago, or Thibault that went to work with Francois. But I think that is something very interesting, because it's good for the country. Because in Chile, we have a big companies as Conchitoro, San Pedro. I work for San Pedro, and then I know well. And it's very good for the country to have more diverse origin, more diverse style of wine, and more small projects, because it's give more interesting things, interesting wine from Chile. And Colchagua was in this way, on this way.
Well, I'm really pleased you said, Marco, that there's more of that. We love representing the smaller producers, and I think good examples of those today. Thibault, one last word.
Yeah, just I think that the main challenge that Colchagua is going to have to face the next year is the same challenge that we have here in Chile. It's to produce some wine with less water. And I think there is a very big agronomical challenge to solve here. And we are working a lot. And I think actually the biodynamical farming, organic farming, and working more and more with the soil, make sure that our soils are alive, are part of the vineyard, not just a support for the vines, might be, from it, the clue, at least in Argentina, but I think also in Chile, to cope with this the lack of water that we are experiencing year after year. And I think we are going to experience it more and more. So this kind of viticulture, respectful viticulture, and polyculture, mixing the vines with other kind of culture, all this kind of stuff, is the path that Colchagua, as any other region which is experiencing issues with the water, has to explore and work on.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Back to you, Aaron.
Was that back to me? I think it was.
Sorry, I may have muted myself a little bit too quick there.
yeah, you cut yourself off. I didn't quite catch the rest of that, but I think it was back to me, wasn't it? Well, it remains to say, I think we're 10 minutes over now, so we'll wrap things up there. But thanks very much to the three of you for joining us today, all the way from Chile. Really, really interesting. You know, I love talking about your wines, but really, I'm a shadow of, you know, the people who've actually made them. You know, you're the people with the facts at your fingertips. Nobody better to present on those 6 wines. And yeah, I've really enjoyed them. And certainly from the feedback we're getting on the Q&A, the people who've been watching have really enjoyed them as well. I think it's been a great session. So thanks very much. As I say, if there's any other questions from anyone that come in, Thibault, Matt, Marco, I'll drop you a note and ask, you know, and we'll get those answers to people. But thanks very much. I think we'll wrap things up there. And yes, good luck with the latest harvest.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, guys.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Thank you very much to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good time.